As you can see, there are a few obvious differences between those who play video games and those who work with GIS software. However, when I figured out that video games were packed with intuitive GIS tools that improved my experience as a player, I was pretty shocked. But let's start from the beginning. What is GIS? So, in a nutshell, Geographic Information Systems, also known as GIS, help people solve location-based problems. GIS software like Global Mapper basically helps users navigate their objectives more effectively. Whether it's being used for construction, surveying, 3D modeling, or something else, these tools enable users to plan, visualize, and solve spatial challenges. Okay, I get it. GIS mapping software does sound complicated, but not when you're comparing it to a video game. In this special episode of GeoTalks, I'm playing a few games to prove this theory. This includes household titles like Fortnite and a couple of the Legend of Zelda games, specifically Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Let's dive in. Alright, so every Fortnite game starts with a question. Where are we dropping? Fortnite is a very popular game, and one of the main objectives is to navigate a large-scale island while a deadly storm traps you and your team. However, the game doesn't stop when you check your map, so you need to figure out how to solve geographic challenges while playing. But how are you supposed to know where to go without being eliminated? Let's start with some of the spatial tools in Fortnite's user interface, or UI, that help players navigate their location-based objectives. Once you're on the ground, it's a game of survival. I always choose a location that I know has loot, otherwise I could run the risk of losing early on. I find it helpful to set a pin before I go anywhere. That way I know how far I am from my destination, which might influence how I choose to get there. Similarly, with GIS software, you can add points, lines, and polygons to a map to keep track of key locations and areas. Just like in Fortnite, these features can provide additional context about a point of interest on a 2D map. Players can also choose to enter fights with in-game enemies. If you succeed, you'll win some powerful loot. You'll know where to find the enemy by referring to your map or your minimap. You'll see a yellow circle that looks kind of like radar. In GIS, this is known as a range ring. Range rings are a type of spatial delimitation that entails bounding an area within a specific distance. The enemy's forces are dispersed within this range ring, which adds to the challenge. However, Fortnite uses advanced features that you can find in a GIS too. The key to surviving the storm in Fortnite is a simple white line on your minimap. This line represents the fastest path to the eye, which is a haven from its damaging effects. Where Fortnite finds the shortest path out of the storm, GIS software can calculate the least cost path between points on a map. This means that it can identify the most efficient route to a destination, accounting for user-defined parameters. Essentially, it's a quick and easy way to determine the best path to a set location. In The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you wake up as Link, a sword-wielding hero, to learn that you've been asleep for 100 years. But what spatial tools does Breath of the Wild have, I hear you asking? Well, the most important is the first resource you receive on your quest, the Sheikah Slate. As Link, you're fated to battle a great adversary to save the kingdom along with Princess Zelda, and you've been granted access to a Sheikah Slate to do so. This resourceful device enables you to map and traverse this unfamiliar version of Hyrule Kingdom to accomplish your objectives, much like Global Mapper Mobile or Avenza maps do in real life. You can use the Sheikah Slate to add stamps and waypoints to your map, which are similar to the pins in Fortnite. I use stamps to mark locations that I plan to revisit, or to provide some visual context about what's waiting for me when I return. Waypoints are displayed on the edges of your minimap and can serve as a beacon for your next destination. You can set waypoint pins on the map, but I recommend placing them from Link's scoped view. Then I usually look at the map to find out what points of interest or obstacles are in that area before heading out. Waypoints allow players to perform terrain analysis on the fly. And yes, I do mean that literally. Link has a paraglider. Navigating in 2D and 3D simultaneously is helpful for both Breath of the Wild players and those who use geospatial software. So, sorry to break it to you, but minimaps don't exist in Global Mapper. However, it does offer something even better for its users. While not all GIS users need to interact with their data in this way, they can enable the You Are Here tool for a simultaneous 2D and 3D perspective of their map data. Now, if you thought the tools in Breath of the Wild were cool, just wait until you see the GIS enthusiast's dream that is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. In the latest addition to the main line of Zelda games, Link's world is, again, turned upside down. This time, the terrain of Hyrule has been torn apart, splitting the map into 3 layers, including 2 new traversable areas known as the Sky Islands and the Depths. That's why the Purapad, which doubles as a data collection and GIS software tool, is such an important resource for Link's journey. While I can't confirm that Link's method of collecting aerial imagery qualifies as remote sensing, he gathers this data with his Purapad and a trampoline capable of launching him into the stratosphere. This was one of the most surprising and exciting moments for me because Pura is using the same concept to map Hyrule that many people are actively using to map our world. With this handy resource, you can use the revealed contours to determine the highest area you can get to from the sky, then reference your map to see if there are objectives, points of interest, or obstacles in your path. However, that's not the end of the story for surveying in Tears of the Kingdom. Throughout your travels in Hyrule, you'll find outposts of the Zonai Survey Team. This group investigates the artifacts and ruins from the ancient Zonai civilization following the upheaval. Specifically, they document their findings and observe the surrounding area to learn more about the Zonai. Then, the team shares their findings to help the people of Hyrule navigate this phenomenon. I seriously could not believe how close this was to actual conversations I've had on GEOTalks. It specifically reminded me of our guests who have highlighted the importance of accessible data and its impact on society. Link's experiences with the Zonai Survey Team culminate in the discovery of a crucial resource that he needs to beat his adversaries, but I'll leave that to you to figure out. In the meantime, I'll share a tip for navigating the depths of Hyrule with your map. So, there are large, unscalable walls in the depths. These walls always, without fail, mirror the bodies of water on the surface. Because of this geographic pattern, you can toggle your map to the other layers to look for information that might help you find your way past these obstacles. Here's the tip. If you exit the map with a different layer of the terrain highlighted, it will be retained on your minimap. You can use this function to better understand where you are spatially in Hyrule, even if you're navigating from Link's perspective in the depths. It's pretty awesome to see this much overlap between the spatial tools in video games and real life. So I've ranked the features in this video from most to least helpful, starting with the Purapad. I was legitimately so thrilled to find this GIS adjacent device in Link's toolkit, so I don't think anything's going to top that. Next up, that least cost path out of Storm has saved me on many occasions, so I have to give the second rank to Fortnite for that. The minimap is pretty crucial to my success in both games. That 2D information can be really valuable when you're playing against foes that can appear seemingly out of nowhere. And finally, I enjoyed the Zonai Survey Team storyline in Tears of the Kingdom. Even though this wasn't a feature, the fact that Tears of the Kingdom showed so much love to map makers warms my heart. And that's about it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, share this video with someone who wants to learn more about how GIS works, or someone who loves video games. See you soon. Bye.